first time regarding any disciplinary matter for this case, and it involved inappropriate prescription of drugs to a patient, and he went through UF Cares and was thoroughly evaluated. They found him safe to practice, and I think as a consequence, they put forth a whole bunch of continuing medical education credits that were required. Something like 60 hours are in this report, which is very expensive. Plus, there's a $40,000 fine that he's got to pay, and I think $6,500 in costs associated with this. If Dr. Beauvil can get his license back and be reinstated, he would be able to go back to work and be able to pay these expenses and undertake all of the CMEs that are required.
Well, I think the evaluation says something different. It's on page 34254. If you look at the summary and the recommendation, it says that his evaluation would require additional psychiatry, continuing education. Dr. Beauville's clinical examination skills have widespread significant deficits. In addition, he demonstrates a mild cognitive impairment, executive dysfunction, and it is felt that this requires additional follow-up. Based on these findings, the following recommendations are made. So he needs, the question is, does you want to reinstate him now, or do you want him to do some of these prior to reinstatement? You know, so how do you want to handle this?
He need to follow these things. May I speak?
Please.
He need to follow these recommendations. That's what we decided.
I'm sorry, what?
Excuse me. He need to follow these recommendations.
Right. The order says you need to comply with document compliance with the recommendations.
In order to comply, he needs money, and he doesn't have any money. And
Do we have a motion today?
Yes.
It does say on here that the recommendation is that if he returns to practice, he should have ongoing supervised review to ensure that he's able to function adequately within his practice setting. And this is finally given the possibility of a progressive decline. I would recommend that.
Can't hear you.
Finally, given the possibility of progressive decline, I recommend that he undergo repeat neuropsychological testing in the next year or sooner if more concerns are raised about his functioning. So if there is some return to practice, it would have to be very monitored and limited.
And he does have a physician that's willing to monitor his practice.
Yeah, I mean, the recommendation that we sent him for says he needs to retake the psychiatry board certification exam, either pass it or demonstrate comparable progress. So prior to any pain management or substance abuse modification practice, that he complete a structured pain management training program. He needs to do all these things first, and then go back to practice and then be monitored.
Well, I can tell you right now, as far as the board certification exam, they're not going to let him take the board certification exam if he's suspended. Unfortunately, UF Cares does this all the time. They make this recommendation, even though they're on probation. Even though if you're on probation, you're suspended, they're not going to let you take that recertification exam. So if you're going to require him to do that, I suggest that you require him to do that after a certain period of time, after he's been reinstated, within a year of reinstatement or 2 years or whatever. Now the rest of it's a different ballgame. If you want him to do the other stuff before he gets reinstated, I understand.
If I may make a recommendation, I'm looking at the recommendations on 34254, same thing that was read before. It says recommend peer review of 25% of charge by board approved evaluator or period to be determined by the board. I would recommend a 3-year probation with direct supervision until he completes everything in these recommendations, and then goes to indirect supervision after that.
Okay. So you're recommending probation for how long?
3 years.
3 years.
Direct supervision until he completes items 1, 2, 3, 4, and I can't read them off, but they're listed here. And then also including.
I'm sorry, you're going too fast. Until completes items what?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7 on page 34254.
Okay.
And then once he completes all those, then he can go to indirect supervision for the balance of the time.
Okay, and then it says recommend that prior to any pain management substance abuse modification practice that he enters, do you want to restrict him from practicing pain management until he does that?
What I would recommend is having him have triplicate copies of any prescriptions for any narcotics. But
I would feel comfortable to restrict him until he finishes that course, if it's okay with the maker of the motion.
I'll accept that as a friendly amendment.
I mean, I'm talking only about pain management.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Jason?
would you accept as friendly that he do all of the CME prior to going out into the public? I mean, this evaluation says he has widespread, the lowest possible score,
Correct.
widespread significant defects in knowledge.
That's
The
fine.
lowest, 0. So he doesn't have any knowledge. So if you send him out, danger.
Right. That's why I was recommending direct supervision.
But you wouldn't let Brad go with direct supervision and go practice. I mean, he's a very smart guy, but he doesn't know anything about
Definitely
medicine.
not Brad. I agree.
So, I mean, that's,
I'll try.
you can try, but that's, I mean, I think that our physicians have to have a knowledge base before they go out and practice. That's what Florida Care said.
Got
He
it.
doesn't have it.
So would you recommend CMEs or would
I
you
would recommend what they
passing the
recommend.
board?
So I would say that this.
Which would you require before he goes into direct supervision?
Number 3, a complete and self-directed or CME, complete a self-directed or CME providing physical examination refresher course before he practices. Complete 20 hours of ambulatory practice pharmacology before he practices. Complete 40 hours of general and/or forensic psychiatry courses with at least 20 hours as part of the general psychiatry board review course before he practices.
I'll accept that as a friendly amendment. So
Thank
2, 3, and 4?
Yep.
Okay.
So 3, 4, and 5 all have to be, you have to document completion of all that before
2, 3, and 4.
he,
3, 4, 5, sorry.
3, 4, and 5 before before reinstatement.
With direct supervision. Until he completes everything else, then he flips to indirect supervision.
Okay, so let me just get this right. He has to complete 3, 4, and 5 before reinstatement. After he completes those 3, he's 3 years under direct supervision until he completes items 1,
2 and 7.
1, 2, and 7,
Yep.
Exactly.
right?
Really?
And then, just to continue, he's restricted from practicing pain management until he completes the pain management training program. That's going to stay in there.
That is correct.
And then, what are the terms of, and then probation, what are the terms of probation?
Direct supervision, and then once he goes into indirect, it's 25% review of the records for the balance of the 3-year probation.
Well,
And the
do you
board
want-
approved monitor, that's very important because she,
Yeah. First and last appearance.
So, while he's under indirect supervision, you're not going to have any monitors or any...
No,
or
of
any
course,
review
with
or-
indirect supervision, you have to have a monitor, and it has to be first and last appearance, triennial reporting, 25% record review.
Triennial reporting, 25% record review,
First and last appearance.
just first and last.
Well, go ahead. Triennial appearance.
First,
Okay.
last, and triennial appearance?
Yeah.
It's up to you folks how long. You want to give them a certain period of time to complete this, or do you want to leave it open-ended?
So the problem is, and that's a question for the other board members, what if he doesn't pass or get 40%?
Well, he has to document completion.
Right, but if you look at item number 1,
Okay,
we
document successful completion.
Yeah. I would say do item number 1 within 2 years.
No, it's too long.
Is that too long? I don't know when psychiatry boards are offered, and I don't know what.
he has to have a license to do this.
Yeah.
You know, Dr. Elsinati, you mean to say that he is going to pass the psychiatry board? Is that what you're saying?
Well, but if he doesn't pass it, he remains
Yeah.
under direct supervision then.
That is actually recommendation number 1.
Right. So if he doesn't recertify, he's, you know, the
Yeah, he has demonstrated comparable progress by scoring at least 40%.
Right, that's what number 1 says.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the problem?
So the question is there a time period that he has to do that in?
No, just leave it open, because if he doesn't complete it within that period of time, he stays under direct supervision.
I think it's a good idea. Well, we have a motion on the floor. Yes, we do have a
Will
motion.
you kindly repeat one more time?
I can do it.
Let me go back to number 7. Florida Cares recommends that assessments within 12 months.
Yes.
So that number 7 has to be completed within 12 months.
Yeah, that's part of the motion as stated.
Okay.
Okay, let me see if I can take a shot at this, okay? Okay. Prior to reinstatement, he has to complete recommendations 3, 4, and 5 as set forth in the U of Cares evaluation. Once he documents successful completion of those 3 steps, he is put on direct supervision for 3 years, and he remains under direct supervision until he completes items 1, 2, and 7. And then 7 has to be completed within 12 months.
Correct.
He is restricted from practicing pain management until he completes a pain management training program. And as far as terms of probation, he has to, he can only practice under supervision of a monitor. There's triannual report, 25% charge review, and triannual appearance.
That's very good, Mr. Deltier.
Is that what we've got?
Yes,
Okay, so that's your motion.
that's the motion.
Do we have a second? Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Okay, no, go ahead. We have a second. Is there any further discussion here and all in favor say aye?
Aye.
Any opposed, motion carries. Doctor, good luck. Let's move on to the next tab. Tab 63, Laura Rhinestone? Rhinestone? Yeah.